your taxes, and manage complex projects at work. Yet a sudden spike of dread hits your chest every time you try to open your banking app. You leave bills sitting on the counter. Despite the money coming in, it constantly slips away in a haze of unmanaged chaos. Logically, you know exactly what you should do. You understand the math behind a basic spreadsheet. You know that spending less than you earn creates stability. But when it comes time to actually review your transactions or sit down with a budget, a deep physical resistance takes over. Society frames this disconnect as a lack of willpower. If you can't stick to a budget, the prevailing cultural myth says you are simply irresponsible, lazy, or bad at math. Chronic financial self-sabotage lives in the body. That low-grade dread is an active biological survival mechanism designed to protect you from a perceived existential danger. The brain relies on the amygdala as a biological smoke detector. It cannot differentiate between a physical predator and an unexpected bill. When that bill arrives, your nervous system initiates a flight response. Pushing the problem away provides immediate relief, creating a powerful avoidance loop. This biological avoidance is heavily compounded by shame. As clinical researcher Brené Brown has extensively documented, shame demands secrecy. When you feel a deep sense of unworthiness regarding your finances, you hide the reality of your situation, making it impossible to seek help or correct your course. By avoiding your budget, your nervous system is actually succeeding at its primary job. It is effectively protecting you from the immediate burning trauma of shame, even though that protection slowly dismantles your long-term stability. To understand why a bank statement triggers a threat response today, we have to look backward. Human developmental psychology shows that the foundational wiring of our financial nervous system is fully established before we turn 10 years old. Financial psychologists call these embedded rules money scripts. They are the invisible, unconscious beliefs about wealth that a child absorbs. They aren't usually taught through direct lectures. Instead, they are encoded through ambient tension, a parent's voice tightening when the rent is due, or the sudden silence at the dinner table when a school fee is mentioned. If a child watches their caregivers fight bitterly over resources, or repeatedly hears the narrative that wealthy people are inherently greedy, they encode a money avoidance script. The young brain links money directly to conflict, moral corruption, and danger. These scripts can cross generations through implicit memory. Children absorb the emotional state of caregivers who experienced macroeconomic crises like the Great Depression. When a parent's voice changes pitch over a bell, the child's brain encodes that stress as its own. This creates a biological legacy of scarcity that persists long after the original crisis has ended. Modern spreadsheets and logic are entirely powerless against these deeply encoded scripts. When forced to choose between the adult goal of saving for retirement and the childhood lesson that money brings conflict, the nervous system will always prioritize the early survival lesson. This programming explains scarcity, but what happens when you actually succeed? Many people experience a strange phenomenon where getting a promotion, a raise, or a sudden windfall triggers intense, suffocating anxiety instead of celebration. This chart visualizes a psychological barrier known as the upper limit problem. We see income rising steadily over time, but then it strikes a hard, dotted line. This threshold represents an internal thermostat, the exact amount of success or abundance a person feels they are safely allowed to experience. Once that threshold is crossed, the brain initiates repetition compulsion. We see it here in the sharp drop, which is driven by specific, deliberate data points: an impulsive vacation purchase, a missed tax deadline, an ignored invoice. The individual unconsciously creates financial chaos to return to a familiar, safe state of struggle. Behavioral economist Daniel Kahneman researched how humans systematically make these irrational choices. It connects to a concept called present bias, our cognitive tendency to heavily overweight the desire for immediate, short-term anxiety relief over the logical need for long-term future security. If your internal thermostat is set to expect struggle, achieving exactly what you want financially will feel like a threat. Without recalibrating that upper limit, success will always trigger subconscious self-destruction. Financial anxiety is a nervous system issue. Treating it effectively requires biological regulation tools that address the physical threat response directly. The goal is to slowly, methodically decouple the abstract concept of money from the body's very real physical panic response. Clinical therapists address this using a method called graded exposure. In practice, this means exposing yourself to a single financial stressor, like logging into a bank account for just 60 seconds, and actively managing the biological reaction. You take a deliberate breath, release the physical tension in your shoulders, and teach the body that observing a number on a screen is not a predator. Over time, this practice expands your window of tolerance. It allows your nervous system to hold on to wealth and success without triggering the old narratives that you are an imposter or that accumulating money is a betrayal of your family's struggles. Permanent change depends on separating your core identity from your financial behaviors. A missed payment reflects an overwhelmed nervous system rather than a character flaw. Removing the weight of shame allows the prefrontal cortex to remain online for learning. Money is a medium of exchange, not a measure of human worth or morality. Until the unconscious biological scripts are identified and rewritten, the fears of the past will continue to spend the resources of the future. Master the nervous system and the